Hey everybody, Dynasty Nerds crew back here again to talk some more Dynasty fantasy football. Today we're going to talk about the Matt Stafford, Jared Goff trade that just went down.
Jared and I will talk about our trip to the Senior Bowl.
And we're going to answer some questions from listeners.
So much fantastic Dynasty information to come your way here in the next hour. Buckle up.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Rich Dotson, here, my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
So we're going back to the old way again?
And Garrett Price.
How's it going?
I remember there was a new way.
Yeah, there was a new way.
It was good.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
I
was like, I'm Rich Dotson.
And I'm Matt O'Hara.
But I wasn't here for that. So,
exactly.
You know.
We were going to totally
You're going to throw me off. Yeah.
We were going to throw you off. And,
like,
we were testing you to see if you actually listened to the podcast when you're not on. Failed.
We definitely did not listen to the podcast.
You missed a really good one because there was a lot of stats.
Well, to be fair, we already saw it on YouTube, so we were good.
This one was a little bit more in depth.
Point.
To be honest with you,
it was.
We talked a little bit more about it. It was pretty good. Got a lot of good feedback.
We did.
Some people were like, "Hey, can you send me the Excel sheet? Your math was wrong." I was like, "Well, Matt's an accountant, so I highly doubt that." And then I sent him the Excel sheet, and like, "Oh, you were right." I'm like, "See, Matt's an accountant."
Thanks for having my back, homie.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a nerd.
Sure, they didn't account for that.
So we're back today. We're gonna talk about the big trade this week.
Big trade.
Matt Stafford for Jared Goff, and some picks involved there. So we're gonna talk about that. But of course, we got to start off with the Senior Bowl.
Hey-o.
We sent Jared and we sent Garrett to the Senior Bowl. So they'll talk about that a little bit more in depth than we will talk about because we were not there.
Right. No, yeah, you're going to have to let us know about the whole entire experience, right? Start to finish.
Yeah. For us, it was
showers. And
we did shower. Jared showers very frequently.
You guys didn't shower together, for the record. It's just
only once.
That came across
only
wrong.
one time.
Yeah,
we were running late, and we had to make it by a certain time period.
No,
so.
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. No, it was a really good time. It was a really good time. It was definitely a different experience than we kind of expected it to be just because of all of the COVID stuff. So, there was a lot of analysts and stuff that would have been there that weren't there. Normally after practice, you get to go on the field and interview the players. Can't do that. There's just a lot of different things that we weren't able to do. That being said, there's still something about being able to see the players play in person. You're able to see their sizes in person compared to the other guys. You're able to see like what happens between snaps with, what coach is talking to who and who's yelling what and, what guys are getting excited and like, lifting guys up and what guys are just like off by themselves. And, so like there's just all of those little nuances that you don't get from just, okay, I watched the 5 minutes of tape, which is super helpful.
Right.
But there's just all those little things that you just don't get. So even though it wasn't everything we hoped and dreamed it would be, there was still a lot of good things we were able to take away from it.
It's always that one part that we don't know that one element, what's between the two, the two ears of any given player. And at least you get a little bit of insight from seeing them. Like you said, either, lifting people up, other players around them, or do they kind of go into a shell after a bad play? So, yeah, I mean, that's useful stuff. That's good stuff. And I hope to someday be able to go myself.
Yeah, maybe next year.
We'll see.
Tell us all about it. So what do you...
Just wasn't in the cards for us this year.
Coming away from the Senior Bowl, obviously the Senior Bowl is just for the seniors. It's kind of like prom, right? Like you can only go if you're a senior.
Can't juniors go to prom?
If you're invited by a senior.
Oh, really? See, at our school, all juniors could go.
Back when we went to high school, that's the only way.
I was not allowed to go to my senior prom. I was banned.
They can't. They
Shocking.
Sometimes do let juniors go if they graduate.
As long as they graduated from college. Yeah. That happened with
the senior,
Benjamin last year.
The Senior Bowl, that is, not prom.
Yes, not prom.
Yeah, once you graduate, that's kind of frowned upon.
Creepy. Get out of here, creep.
Is that guy 24?
Still going to 7th prom in a row, baby. That's what I love about these prom girls. They keep getting older, but they keep staying the same age.
You almost hit that quote.
I know it's not I know it's high school girls, but we're talking about prom.
Yeah, all right, let's go.
He's not in high school. Okay, I should have nailed the quote. You're right.
You're close.
Sorry, McConnell.
Jared, what were some of the things that you saw? I know you guys can't all see him on camera, but what were some of the things that you took away overall before we start talking about specific players?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people they want to hear your input on how like running backs look during like team practice and stuff like that. But in these like Senior Bowl practices, in these team periods, they're not tackling full go. They're just wrapping up. So you see these guys like bust off like a big run and stuff, and you're thinking to yourself,
Ooh,
well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, is there anything to take away from that? Because they're not going full go. But the cool things that you do get to see, kind of like we just said, are like stuff before practice. Like we caught a little session with Najee Harris working one-on-one before practice with the Miami Dolphins running back coach, which could be significant because of their draft capital they have in the first round. So
Yeah,
And the need at the position as well.
Dude was
Yeah.
ignoring like all of the other guys. They're like warming up. They're like, "Hey, Najee, come over here!" Like running him through specific drills and stuff like that. We're like, "Well, clearly you guys have a favorite here."
Yeah, and I was following that thread you guys had out there on Twitter as well, and so I saw a lot of that, the little video clips of that kind of stuff too, and that's important. I mean, he was a guy that probably didn't need to go to an event like this, but decided to go. He has a little bit of a twisted ankle, so he didn't play in the game, and he wasn't like practicing most of the week. But the little bit that he was exposed to coaching, they're kind of on him like flies on crap. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's a lot to glean, I think, from just a small thing.
He's good, man. He's
And he's big.
he is really good.
He came in at 6'2", 230, which, I mean, he carries that weight very well. Looking at him, watching his tape, he looks like a guy that's probably 217, 215. So the extra weight is all very lean muscle, you know what I mean?
sure.
I mean, obviously,
Quads.
there's the quad picture going around the internet, so he's definitely carrying some good lower body weight there, but impressive guy so far.
My early analysis on Najee Harris is he's my 1-1 in this rookie class, and I thought going into this year it'd be Travis Etienne, easily. Like,
And I think most people did.
but now it's like there's not a doubt in my mind that Najee Harris will be good at the next level. And how good, who knows? See where he lands, but he will be a talented running back with probably he'll fall in that hashtag 2 to 3 year window, maybe plus, maybe get a hashtag 4-year window on Najee Harris, but he's going to be good. I still think Travis Etienne is going to be a quality NFL running back, even as a rookie. But Najee Harris to me is just locked and loaded as the 1-1.
It's funny.
Almost like Jamar Chase for me is like locked and loaded as the wide receiver one. And I like Devontae Smith too.
It's funny because last year I was a really big ETN guy. I've gone back and watched both years, and I can see he definitely did have a worse year this year. Like, it wasn't just perception. Like, watching the tape, I've noticed that too. Like, he was much less decisive this year. Like, there was some weird stuff going on, so I kind of want to look into that more. But he kind of reminds me, even though their play style is different, he's going to be similar to Jonathan Taylor. Like, he's going to be very much like, what's the offensive line situation where ETN's going? If it's a good landing spot, he could eat, he could feast. But he's not somebody that's going to create on his own. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see with all of that. But Jared, do you want to talk about some of the specific players that either impressed you or maybe not so much at the Senior Bowl?
Ooh.
Well, I can tell you somebody that did not impress me is Jamie Newman, quarterback who actually took the whole year off last year. He transferred from Wake Forest to Georgia, was supposed to be a starting quarterback, this big riser in the Devy community. If you play Devy, you can draft these guys before they come into Dynasty fantasy football in the NFL side. But anyway, he took the whole year off, and he was obviously very rusty. He threw like 4 or 5 interceptions that we saw at practice, and then it carried over into the game. He didn't look very good in the game either.
Were there any glimpses during practice or anything like that that would show you that this guy's got a little something, or
No.
or was it all rust?
Honestly, no. I think he could have been a first rounder if he played last
The
year.
hype was there.
Yeah, the hype was there.
So it's weird to take a year off as a quarterback because you need those reps.
And-
It's
and
so important.
Like the bigger question, I mean, doesn't he have an extra year of eligibility?
Everyone did.
Right.
could have if he
why
wanted
wouldn't?
it.
Yeah. Why? Especially at a position where the longevity of your career is so much greater than any other position. Take that extra year. Go back to college. I mean, get the experience, knock all the rust off, and kind of hone your skills a little bit more. That seems like a kind of silly decision.
Definitely as a quarterback, because if you're remote, you show anything on tape, you're getting bumped up a couple rounds, which is a couple $1 million at this point. So if you flame out, at least you're flaming out as a millionaire. What I saw there from the Senior Bowl,
Look at you, John.
through the thread and on TV and reading articles, Mac Jones, who decided to go there, didn't play in the game because he hurt his hamstring or his ankle. Or
I think
something
his was an ankle as well. I
Ankle?
thought.
His was, I'm
Tweaked
better
his
than all
ankle.
of you guys, and I don't need to be here.
Yeah, base.
Probably, yeah. His accuracy looked really good during his practices. His timing looked really good, which is really impressive for a guy who comes in for a couple days and just meeting these receivers and playing with them. His timing looked good.
And it was also another note that I, from everything that I pulled together and kind of read, it seemed like he absorbed the offense rather quickly as well. So a lot of the coaches were impressed with his just ability to soak in the information quickly, which is an important piece, especially if you're going to produce early on in your rookie year.
I'm weird on Mac Jones a little bit. I have we're doing our quarter, so when we do our rookie breakdowns, which is what we do best. Is we're going to do quarterbacks first, like we always do, then tight ends. So I've started dabbling in.
Don't be dibbling too much, man.
I'm a dibbler, and I'm just dibbling in there on Mac Jones a little bit. He's weird to me because he is accurate, he's solid, he's a pocket quarterback, but he doesn't blow me away. I see some tendencies a little bit like the Drew Lock kind of tendencies where if you pressure him a little bit, things get a little bit fuzzy there. Can he clean that up a little bit? It's just kind of if I was in a super flex league, and here I am, say it goes Trevor Lawrence, which is the creme de la creme, and you do whatever you can to get him. Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, right? Those four. Right. And say it goes 4 in a row. And then say it goes Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, Travis Etienne, because everybody else is there. And I'm sitting there at 9 on Mac Jones. I still don't know if that's in a deep class like this, how desperate. I still don't know if I want to hitch my wagon to Mac Jones. Is Mac Jones like Andy Dalton?
I mean, he could be. I've kind of. He seems a lot like Kirk Cousins to me. That'd be a win.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins would be a win.
Yeah,
I think the NFL side seems to be a lot higher on Mac Jones than we are as fantasy analysts. But I mean, a lot of people are talking about him going as a third quarterback. So let's see how the draft plays out. I mean,
there's no way. There's literally. I would bet my Dynasty stakes in Dynasty Nerds that he's not the third quarterback.
Wacky stuff's happening.
Do you remember 2 months ago when there was a 0% chance that Matt Stafford would get traded?
Yeah, but
0%.
I know, but
no way.
There was
0%.
But then Matt Stafford came out and said he wanted to be traded too, though. It was a mutual.
Sure.
It was a mutual thing. I agree. I agree. Hey,
it could happen.
But look what they got for him too, though. It wasn't
We'll get into that.
We will get into that. But one thing Jared
0% chance Deshaun Watson gets traded.
one thing Jared picked up on, and I thought it was a really good note.
He's married.
Mac. Well, we're not going to get into that.
Okay.
But one thing that he noticed was how loose Mac Jones was, joking around with the guys and stuff like that too. And that's another one of those little components that was
sure.
People seem to be buying into him, and he was having a good time, signaling first downs after an awkward a fawn baby deer run that he had for a first down, and I'm over exaggerating. He's actually not a terrible athlete, but
you could hear him joking around with the guys on the sidelines that have different helmets on, and you can tell that he's just a team guy. He likes playing. And I mean, he was far and away the best quarterback there.
Yeah, easily. It was not close.
It's not hard to do at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, he was operating the offense. When you had snapped the ball, you knew exactly where he was going with it. He was hitting the guys perfectly in the arms.
Any other quarterbacks that you think will be anything other than day 3 guys?
No.
I don't think so either. Ellinger, Book, even Mond was probably the best of the group this week.
Yeah.
And even him, I think he's a day 3 guy. So
I don't hate Mac Jones. I'm not trying to sit here.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I just don't.
You're not buying into him as much as the other guys.
The quarterback's the hardest. We always say it every year when we break down the quarterbacks. Hey, guys, we're about to break down the quarterbacks, and if your name's not Trevor Lawrence, it's really hit and miss. You know what I mean? It's so hard. You're not the same guy who liked. I liked.
Daniel Jones?
No. Oh my God. Dwayne Haskins initially over Kyler Murray. I had him ranked ahead of Kyler Murray. Nice helmet, Rich. But you know what I mean? It's the hardest position to take. I mean, people that get paid millions of dollars fail this all the time. So it is the hardest because there's so many tangibles that go into it. So for me, I can see Mac Jones being solid, but where's he at? What's the cast around him? Like Alabama, you're surrounded by studs.
Super talented.
You know what I mean? So where does he? I don't see him carrying a team. I see him, but you never know. You never know with quarterbacks. It just right now,
I hear you.
I see more Andy Dalton, solid guy, could be a QB2, but I don't see that upper echelon Baker Mayfield.
And I guess one thing as fantasy analysts
that just registered as he was talking
that we have to take into account is the rushing floor that these other 4 guys are going to give you.
Yeah, all 4 of them will.
Going to. Yeah. So
all
Mac
4
Jones is not a runner.
No,
that's for sure.
No. A couple of the other guys that I walked away a little bit impressed with, some of the wide receivers, both the Clemson guys, Powell and Amari Rodgers, both looked really good. I think Rodgers really elevated his draft stock this weekend.
Yep.
Maybe more than any skill position player I saw out there. Because I had some real question marks about him. They're Clemson. Smaller. He is. He's a smaller.
5'9", 211.
Yep.
He made a tough catch in that end zone, that touchdown catch.
He had a body on him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He played much more physical than his size would indicate. His routes were always very crisp. Caught the ball. I saw almost no drops from him the entire week.
It wasn't Kadarius Toney?
We'll get to him. We'll get to him.
And Powell's a bit more of a physical guy, right?
Yep. He's a little bit bigger, more traditional, like X-body type of receiver.
Who?
Cornell Powell.
The other Clemson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Pow.
Pew, pew. Okay.
He has no stats in college.
No, he didn't.
He was a very late
Except for against Ohio State.
Dude, and Rodgers
And
too.
Rodgers Powell's old, correct?
Yeah.
For a
older.
senior.
Yeah.
I think he's like 23 or 24 or something.
Amari Rodgers had over 1,000 yards at Clemson last year.
Yep.
So it's not like he's like a nobody. And I read that he did increase his stock the most. And I did see that like on his route running, like he continuously burned defenses.
A lot of
like
guys.
His routes were super crispy, like probably the best at the Senior Bowl.
For me, they were for sure.
5'9", 211 though. That's pretty.
He's built for a little guy.
That's
Yeah.
stocky for 5'9".
That's more of a running back build
Yeah,
almost.
absolutely.
Debo Samuel-esque, essentially.
Build wise, yeah. Build wise. I really liked Austin Watkins. He's a kid out of UAB. A guy, honestly, I knew nothing about going into the process, which is kind of rare. A lot of these guys had a lot of good information behind, like
Debbie, stuff going on there.
knew really nothing about Austin Watkins. Jared and I talked about him just a tiny bit on the way up, and that was it. But of all of the bigger bodied players, this guy's 6'1.5", so almost 6'2". I think he came in at 207, so good build, good frame, but he moved like a much smaller receiver, which I really like seeing, like especially on a lot of those cone drills. I really like watching the receivers on a lot of those drills.
Who is this again?
His name's Austin Watkins,
Austin
out of
Watkins.
UAB. Chances are he's going to be a later round flyer guy, but when I saw him move versus his counterparts that were around the similar size, it was night and day. Guys like McMath and Trayvon Grimes or Trayvon Grimes. I always try to put the extra Eon in there, but Trayvon Grimes and some of those guys, like his movements were just so much more fluid, could sink his hips a lot more, get in and out of his breaks a lot better too. And he made some big catches over the course of practices
I didn't
too.
see him drop a ball.
Nope. I didn't either.
So a name to remember going into this thing a little bit then, huh?
Yep, he's one of my dark horse guys that I'm like keeping an eye on as this process goes through.
Well, I mean, Cooper Kupp. That's how Cooper Kupp made a big name for himself at the Senior Bowl.
Absolutely.
That's when we fell in love with him, and then we call him Mr. Moscow Mule. We were telling everybody else had Cooper Kupp like later, and we're like, we take Cooper Kupp with the 2-1. I think is where we had him in our rankings at the time.
Somewhere around there.
Terry
Moscow
McLaurin
Mule,
moved up
Terry
during
McLaurin
that
moved up to the
time.
Senior Bowl as
Yep.
well. So there's always, or at least over the last couple of years, there's something that has stood out, or at least a name to watch. Obviously, here we're talking Amari Rodgers, but another one that'd be low, even more lower
Austin
on
Watkins.
that list would be Austin Watkins. Anybody else? Any tight ends? Anybody else? Anybody running backs?
There
Anybody?
wasn't a lot from the tight end position really to get too excited about. Some of the running backs that I thought stood out, Michael Carter, especially in the game, stood out. He didn't do a lot during the week necessarily, but all of his drills were solid. Like he never looked bad. And that was, I think, the running back position on the whole. Like none of them overly impressed me, but none of them like hurt their stock either.
It was tough to evaluate. Sorry, Matt.
No, it's all good. And his thing is he's a smaller guy, and he's going to be
5'7" and 7/8".
Yeah, and so he's going to be a space guy catching passes. Everything I've read is that he needs probably some work in the pass pro.
Sure.
So he's going to have to take a big step forward in that aspect.
Although he did pancake Tough Borland.
Nice.
Tough Borland looked bad.
But he made some. He made some.
Not so tough there, are you, Borland?
He made some nice
More
plays though
Borland
in the
than tough.
game itself.
He did.
Broke off some nice good runs. So
He did. One other small note real quick, Ramondre Stevenson, he's the running back out of Oklahoma. He was playing most of the season at around 245 in those mid 240s there. He weighed in at the Senior Bowl at 227. So that's almost a 20-pound difference between what he weighed in at and was playing at and what he played at the Senior Bowl. And I think he looked more explosive. And he had a really good season regardless of that. But I thought he looked much more explosive this week.
You and I actually had both done most of our nerd score evaluation on him already prior to the Senior Bowl. And, I mean, his burst looked so much better at the Senior Bowl than initially on his tape. So I think cutting that
Rework
late.
huh?
And that's a similar to Lev Bell coming out. He played in college much heavier than
bigger.
he ever did in the NFL, and he looked a lot. He looked sluggish in college compared to obviously what he did in the NFL. So it can be done.
He's a good sleeper candidate because he's probably going to fall in the draft because he had some off the field issues. He came from JUCO. He was suspended most of this past college football season. He missed like 6 games or something. So there's probably some issues that are going to like make him fall, kind of like Preston Williams, like didn't get drafted, but he was like one of those flyers. But he looks,
Isaiah Crowell.
yeah,
Yep.
he kind of reminds me like Deontay Foreman a little bit.
Well, you mentioned real quick. This will be the last thing, and then we're gonna get to our ads and all that good stuff. But Kadarius Toney looks the part in almost every way, except he just kept dropping the football.
Yeah.
Saw him.
It was weird. Like they even at one point lined him up in the backfield as a running back, pitched him the ball, and he dropped it.
Ooh.
Like it was weird. Like I don't know if he had the yips.
Right.
Like I don't know what was going on.
And that's the thing. Like that in a 1 week little showcase thing, and something that shows up because it wasn't something that happened a lot in college, right?
I need to dig into his tape more.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a ton of games to be able to say confidently one way or another, but it looked like he was like way overthinking it while he was trying to catch the football. Like it just didn't look natural. So I don't know if it was just this week or what, but everything else looked great. I mean, he was in and out of his cuts, getting in and out of his cuts well, and burning guys.
He's quick, man.
He
Like,
can get open.
He's one of those players. If you watch, like back in the day, if you don't use a Nerds film room and you watch YouTube highlights of a player, right? If you watch a Kadarius Toney YouTube highlights of him, you're like, I'm taking this guy 1-1. Like who is Jamar Chase? He didn't even play last year, right? That's Toney.
Yep.
But I haven't dug in deep either, but like that's a huge concern with you dropping everything,
Right.
like everything.
It was weird.
Something to pay attention to when you do watch your film. Like it does. How are these guys' hands?
Yeah,
That
right.
never
You have
gets
to-
better at the next level.
You almost have to watch the film through that lens, and you're almost picking, looking
Being
for it at that
nitpicky.
point. Yep.
Yeah, 'cause how many people get better? How many people have really bad hands in college and it gets better in the NFL?
I can't think of many.
I can't think of any. Zero. I mean, I'm sure if we dug deep, like, this guy had a percentage of a drop rate, like Jonathan Taylor.
I mean, Jordan Howard got he couldn't catch it all, and then
Melvin Gordon. I don't know.
it's just one of those things that it's a concern. Like if you have trouble catching football in college, it does not get better in the NFL. Right. So we talked about those. No tight ends really talk about. The running backs were okay, and then that's it. The Senior Bowl. It's usually a quick segment. So let's get into our next segment. Before we do, let's talk about our friends at Prediction Strike.
All right, our guys at Prediction Strike. Do you wish you could have had a stock in a guy like Derrick Henry?
What?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Justin Jefferson.
Ooh.
Hey, Justin Jefferson. Any of these
DeAndre
players.
Swift right now.
Oh,
Buy DeAndre Swift right now on Prediction Strike. Do it.
Oh
Do
yeah, and J.K. Dobbins. Any of those running backs, really.
Yeah. Before you go into the natural read here, I just gotta say for Prediction Strike, like this should be pretty easy for all you guys listen to get involved because there's nobody out there this is built for to make money on than us savvy dynasty players because we are the ones watching these rookies come in and we know the ones that have the high upside and that are promising. And those are guys that are always going to get cheaper and their stock's going to go up. So invest in these rookies. Garrett, tell them all about it.
Well, and that's the whole thing with this. There's been so much talk about the stock market this past couple weeks and, what stock should you buy? Which ones should you sell? Which ones should you hold? And obviously this isn't exactly the same, but there's definitely some stocks that are those, real inexpensive under the radar ones that all of a sudden could pay off huge. And that's exactly what you get to do at predictionstrike.com. So you can go over to their website, predictionstrike.com, or download their app on the App Store. I love it when things have apps. So much more accessible, so much more useful for me. I do almost everything on my phone.
Yep.
So you can find them on the App Store as well. Sign up with the promo code Dynasty and receive $10 free with your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code Dynasty at predictionstrike.com.
Yeah, they did that whole $10 and put it in Curtis Samuel. It's super cheap. He's gonna reward you. I mean, there's so many different players in Dynasty. You can look at this and be like,
Tons.
Like Trevor Lawrence. Sky's the limit, son. Now he's probably expensive.
He's probably already expensive, yeah.
But there's tons of guys have
Buy the
upside.
dip.
You know what I mean? They're going to go into like third-year breakout tight ends. Right around there.
Cole Kmet.
Guys are going to take a step forward. Cole Kmet he's a great person to invest in right now. But so I think this is perfectly built for our audience.
For dynasty players, it's
Adam Troutman.
That's a good investment.
I have so many Brian Edwards shares. You can do NBA too.
Nice.
Oh yeah, this is a perfect time here to get those NBA guys in. Now, we don't talk as much NBA, but Jared and I talk a little bit of NBA.
Yeah, we talk zero NBA. We literally just talked the most NBA we've ever talked in the show.
By mentioning the NBA.
No, I think when the Cavs won the championship.
When the Cavs won the championship, we talked about it. There was that.
So, all right, let's move on. So now let's talk about the big trade of the week.
Ooh.
This is a massive trade. I actually like, I want to say I like both sides, but I like the Lions end.
I think I get both sides. How about that?
Yeah, I get both sides, but I would take, I think it's good for both sides, but I would want, if you had to tell me you had to take one, I'm taking the Lions side.
Me also. But I mean, obviously, the Rams they don't like Jared Goff. They got disillusioned with him. They had a horrible contract that they had to get out from under, and they had to pay to get rid of it, basically.
So what was all the deals of what was the deal?
What was the deal?
Preface that, because we haven't even said what the deal was.
Okay.
Sure. Go ahead.
So Matt Stafford
we just said we liked it.
to the Rams.
Right.
That's it.
That was it.
That was
Matt
the only
Stafford.
piece.
Yep.
Jared Goff. Now, they both have, so Goff has 4 years left on his deal. Stafford has 2 at like 20.
But there is an
2
out
million.
after 2 years for Goff.
For Goff. So they're both essentially 2-year deals.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lions also got 2 first-round picks and a third.
So a third round this year, and then a first round the following
22
year,
and
and then
23.
the year after that, 22 and 23.
Which is what they did because they had to give him an extra first to take on Goff's contract. Which is weird to me is like, people are talking like Goff is like a terrible quarterback because McVay actually opened things up for him in 2019, and they were a little bit more, they threw the ball a little bit downfield, but a little more than they did last year. Because last year they didn't throw anything downfield
the
whatsoever.
offensive line this past year was pretty bad there.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
They were beat up, and I think with a proper line in front of Goff and in a good system, he can be an operational quarterback. I mean, they took him. He took him to the Super Bowl, so I mean, we know what he can do in the right situation. But this past year just wasn't the best situation, I think.
Yeah, you're getting a quarterback for the Lions that is still really young. You didn't get an old guy. You get a guy that you can at least spend time. You're in a rebuild mode anyway, so you can invest. You have multiple first-round picks to invest in other players around Goff to see what you have. A former first-round pick who's took a team already to the Super Bowl under McVay's guidance. That's fine. Coaching, whatnot, players around you. It's a quarterback. You were still in charge to go to the Super Bowl. You didn't win, but you still went to the Super Bowl and you got there. So you have Jared Goff, number 1 overall pick, went there, goes to the Lions. This is fantastic news for DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson owners. I would say it's also good news for Quintus Cephas, but he's the only receiver on the roster. So
all news is good news for him.
All news.
I
Doesn't
just
matter.
did a YouTube video on him, but even for him, for a guy who's like an Anquan Molden, like kind of mold for Quintus Cephas, what?
I just hit my button.
Oh, you dropped.
He just got real short real quick.
That's hilarious.
I thought about like, like, dude,
His face was great.
6'1", like 20. He's like a big physical guy.
He is a big physical
Strong
guy.
hands. He has really good hands. But TJ, like Jared Goff has like a 70% completion percentage. I saw this stat on Twitter to the tight end. DeAndre Swift, he loves to target the running back. Everything. He
absolutely.
keeps everything short and sweet. You're bringing in Dan Campbell as a head coach from the Saints, who's going to run that kind of offense in Detroit. He already said he wants to move Swift into the slot. They're going to use him as a receiver. Hawkinson's already my number 2 overall dynasty tight end. That's how much I love TJ Hawkinson. He's my number 2 overall dynasty tight end.
Wow.
I would draft him in the startup ahead of Travis Kelce. On youth, I love Kelce too, but I'm taking Hawkinson long term.
So you got Kittle Hawkinson.
I have a Kittle Hawkinson. Then
He said go Iowa.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, I love it. But I think Hawkinson not only did he
Throw
take a
Fant
step
up
forward
there somewhere too. And you're
this
good to go.
year, where he's a top 6 tight end, I think to do what he did in his second year for what we did out of his college tape and how much will it have coming out. I think Hawkinson is in a tight end premium. I gave up. Let me put it this way: I did a startup last year, and I gave up my first this year for Hawkinson in that startup. And my team ended up having some injuries. My running backs got real bad. I ended up with the number 2 overall pick. Right? Oof. I don't even feel bad about it. It's a tight end premium league. I don't.
Oh well, tight end premium.
And I'm good at quarterback already, so I already have. I'm set at quarterback. I don't even feel bad about it because I have Hawkinson. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how much I love him. I don't like. If it was 1-1, it'd hurt a little bit more losing Lawrence, but I have no problem losing Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, or something along those lines for what I consider a top 3 young tight end that's put up numbers year in and year out. So I think this is great news for him. Jared Goff goes in the system. And on the counterpart, my opinion, I'll let you guys talk after I talk.
What else is new?
You know, I got my whole Senior Bowl segment. I'm just going to sit the rest out, honestly.
Yeah.
Stafford goes to the Rams. He has a potential to be on a team that is finally good, right? He's dealt with 12 years of just mediocre coaching and mediocre talent around him. They finally get a good running back, and he's out of there. No receiver. Kenny Golladay is one of the best receivers he's had. Obviously, he had Matt Stafford or Calvin Johnson early, but he's never done anything. He's never won. He's never won a playoff game there. They get a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, and even in fantasy quarterback, the highest Matt Stafford's ever finished as a fantasy quarterback is QB5, and that was 2011. He's finished a QB1 6 times out of the 12 years. He was a QB7 3 times, a QB5 once, a QB9, and a QB11. So only half of that has been solid. Now, going to the Rams, he's going to be in a really innovative offense. But do we know? Do we know if the Rams took a step back last year? Is the NFL catching up to Sean McVay? Is that a possibility? Either so, this gives McVay an opportunity to really open up his offense, right? The push the ball downfield. This is great news for Robert Woods owners. Great news.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
He's going to be the receiver that runs on the outside, and he's already a borderline wide receiver 1. Fantastic news for him. Stafford's going to have some of the best weapons he's ever had around him. Having Cooper Kupp, having Robert Woods, having Josh Reynolds and Van Jefferson, having Tyler Higbee, and having Cam Akers. I mean, this is a really good situation for Stafford. I think he will most likely finish as QB1 because we got to remember, too, back in 2019, which was just a year and a half ago, Stafford was on pace for a really good year before he hurt his shoulder in week 9.
He was on pace for like 5,000 yards or something crazy, wasn't it?
It was absolutely massive, man. He was 6th in points per game. I think he was averaging about 21.6. He was 4th in touchdowns in the league up to that point. He was 2nd in passing touchdowns. Like, he was just really thriving.
And I think the biggest thing, even more so than all the weapons, which are awesome, is he gets to be with Sean McVay.
Right.
Like, he gets to be with an offensive mind that's going to, we believe, get the best out of him.
100%.
And I think that's really the biggest boost out of all of it is going to be in that sense.
Absolutely. And I want to break it down and make it the simplest as possible. I mean, simplest as possible is I think Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than Jared Goff, and now he's going to a better situation. So I think you can expect, the highest he ever was top 5. I think you can expect him to reach his potential with Sean McVay and be a guy that is touching those numbers again, even though he's 33 or whatever. I don't know what year
33.
I don't know what year he was when he got to number 5. But
2011.
he still has plenty of talent and to get right back to that situation, even though that was 9 years ago or whatever, that he was a top 5 finish. And now he's in a better situation. So I really do like that. As far as Goff goes, I mean, obviously it's a step back, I think, for him offensive systems wise, because it's a little bit of an unknown exactly what they're going to run there in Detroit. But
the weapons around him.
I mean, yeah, and the weapons around him aren't as good. So the one person on LA that I'm kind of concerned about is Cooper Kupp. I'm not sure if he's going to be as needed as he was when Jared Goff was passing, throwing him the ball. Because like you already mentioned, Jared Goff did love to check the ball down and kind of operate a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and that's where Cooper Kupp makes his hay. And so I guess we'll have to see exactly how much Matt Stafford still needs a guy like Cooper Kupp.
Sure. And Kupp was a roller coaster. And it's weird too because the receiver they're stuck with, so they're cap strapped right now as it is.
They're $36 million. They're projected to be $36 million over the cap already going into 2021.
And a lot of that's going to come out of the defense. And what sucks is they're tied to Cooper Kupp for 3 more years.
They just signed him. Yep.
So their out is after 2023. Their out for Robert Woods is after this year in 2022. They only have a $200,000 dead cap or $600,000 dead cap, and then it drops $200,000 after that. After 3 years, it's Cooper Kupp has a $1.5 million out, but that's
you got to kind of wonder like who's making these decisions, because it seems like whoever's throwing this money around doesn't really have an eye on the future at all in LA.
Couldn't care less.
Could not care less. It's just a lot of the situations, it doesn't. They're not marrying the football with the finances very well over there in LA, and I'm not sure. Eventually, it's going to come back to bite them in the ass. and I'm just not sure how far down the line it's going to be.
Well, we always say the salary cap's a myth. Like, you can make it work. Like, you can almost make anything work here. And
you can make it work, but you have to make cuts somewhere. You're going to have to make decisions. Yeah, exactly.
The defense is going to struggle there. You know what I mean? It's going to be Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, and then nobody else. Just rookie, which are going to be second round, third round picks, cheap free agents they bring in here because they're not going to be able to afford, and they're just not going to be able to afford it. They're going to have to. Luckily, Stafford's only due like $23 million, so he's not going to cost some son a ton of money. And honestly, guys, I don't really think like there's all this talk like, oh, the NFL salary cap's gonna come in at 175 probably, but nobody's gonna know until later. And there's still like TV deals. They're talking with Amazon. There's still TV deals to be made here as well. And I don't think the owners want to put themselves in a situation where they want to ruin their teams because of this salary. Like, some of these teams are gonna be in real big distress, and they're gonna hurt their teams bad if they come in that low of a salary cap. I don't think owners want to do that. I think they'd be willing to like. I bet when it comes all said and done, it's gonna be closer to $200 million than $175 million everybody's talking about.
You're saying like there's gonna be this big push. There's like 5 or 6 teams that are really bad off, and everyone else can manage it. So, I mean, it depends on how big of a voice those 5 or 6 teams have.
Yeah, but that's 25% of the owners in the NFL saying, "Hey guys, we need to make this work because like if it's not good for me, it's not good for you." And we have. Like we're still making money.
I mean,
like,
it really all depends. You get all those billionaires in a room, and they might just say, screw you, buddy. Like you've mismanaged your team for years, and you've been on top. Now it's time for you to check yourself and go down to the bottom where you belong. I mean, it's all part of the game. It's all.
Well, the other thing I'm concerned about is we've mentioned the offensive line, and it's questionable, I would say, in LA. Mm-hmm. Their best offensive lineman is probably still Wentworth.
And he's
38 years old, and he was banged up a ton last year. It's not even guaranteed he's coming back.
He said
sounds like
to.
it.
Yeah,
he's coming back.
Sounds like it, but there's no guarantee at this point. But now we also have to look at the pick situation. They don't have a first-round pick this year,
right?
Or 22 or 23. Mm-hmm. They're also missing some other picks in and around there. Like, how is this, and they're in a bad situation cap-wise too. Mm-hmm. How are they going to improve enough to make sure that there's protection for Matt Stafford, that there's holes for Cam Akers? Like
second-round picks.
I mean, hopefully you hit. Hopefully you hit. But that's the thing that is going to be interesting in all of this is if there's gaps anywhere, there's nothing to help fill those. They're not going to be able to bring in some stud free agents, and they're not going to be able to have high value picks to be able to do any of that.
It feels like they've been operating on 1 year at a time for about the last ever since
they're playing redraft instead of dynasty.
Ever since they gave Todd Gurley that contract, they've been on like 1 year at a time. So let's just manage this year. Who cares about the future? Let's just pay the debt with credit cards. It's fine. We'll, you know what I mean? We'll pay that. We'll worry about that interest later. No big deal. And it's gonna catch up with them.
And that's where you need the first round pick is for the money wise, because I have no problem in the NFL. I just thought it was weird that people were like, "Oh, we're giving them a first round pick for this proven player." Like, I would always take the good proven player over a draft pick any day of the week. Like any day of the week. It's just.
But those draft picks now are so cheap compared.
That's what I'm saying. But that's where you benefit is you get the 5 years for so cheap. Even more so for the quarterback.
Right.
Some other guys it become unbeneficial. You know what I mean to them. Like if you draft a running back at number 2 overall, they can start getting real pricey.
Yeah, that's backwards then. But it does occasionally happen.
Okay. So what do you? So do you guys think in a super flex league, this is a good buy window for Jared Goff? Because I kind of feel that way. Like everybody's talking like, oh, this is just a placeholder. Jared Goff is like, people are talking like Jared Goff is just all of a sudden just an awful quarterback.
I don't think it's a placeholder. I think the GM there now in Detroit was in LA when they picked. He wasn't the GM in LA, but he was in the front office in LA when they picked Goff first overall. So this is a guy that obviously likes Goff still, if he's willing to trade for him. And I think with all the other capital they got along with Goff, I think if he works out, it's icing it in the cake. I don't think they're trying to move on from the guy. I think they'd like to make it work with him, but if it doesn't, they've got all these extra picks. You know what I mean? So it's.
Yeah, the other part of this, and they were talking about how much money they're taking on with the deal and all that stuff, but this is a rebuilding franchise.
Right.
They couldn't care less at this point, like what the situation is with the salary cap. They're not planning on contending anyway. If we have to spend money to get more draft picks, we'll spend money to get more draft picks because that money's not doing us any good in winning right now. So I think that's a big thing there. But on top of that, I'm not going, and this is a little bit on conspiracy theory side. I understand this, but there are teams out there like Washington, like Indianapolis, that could use a mediocre quarterback. I'm not convinced that they wouldn't even try to make another deal where hey, we'll give you Jared Goff for a second, and just keep moving it down the line, keep acquiring more assets, because by the time that they are good enough for Jared Goff to be relevant, they have his out in his contract, and they're probably going to move on.
Yeah, but even if you're going to rebuild, you got to start with the quarterback. And my point is, like, I
think you kick the tires on him. Me personally. I mean,
on Jared Goff?
On Jared Goff.
Oh,
if you're
would.
Detroit,
I'm saying buy Jared Goff, so of course I would.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm fine. The price right now is cheap. I'm with you.
I think the Lions are in again, it goes back to where I said, we started off with is like, I feel like the Lions are in a perfect situation. They got a quality quarterback that's already gone to a Super Bowl who, again, is he better than Matt Stafford?
No.
Absolutely not. But is he good enough to get you to a Super Bowl?
He was.
Theoretically.
Yeah, 100% he is because he already did it. So 100% he's already good enough to get you to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, you're rebuilding, but we see in the NFL, you can turn this thing around fast. I mean, 3 years ago, the Browns were 0-16.
Yeah.
They should have beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, and they should be going to the Super Bowl to play Tom Brady, but they're not.
Don't beat yourself up.
I'm not. I'll get over it in 50 years when I'm dead. But you know what I mean? Things are turning around quickly. So now they bring in a receiver. Say they can't come to terms with Galladay, but maybe they sign Allen Robinson. Now they have Allen Robinson, Quintus Cephas, DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson. They have a first-round pick this year. Maybe they get a good offensive lineman. They have 2 first-round picks next year to build on top of that too. This is a team offensively that could start turning around. They Jeff Okudah last year.
I don't know that they have the money to do all of that though, because they're already below the line for the salary cap.
So they're below, but still, they bring in a receiver.
They're 10, 11. They're probably manageable. Like a couple bad contracts in there, and they're good.
To sign a receiver, well, they got no matter what, they got to sign a receiver because they only have Geronimo
they got to
Allison.
sign somebody. Yeah,
they got Geronimo Allison.
They need warm bodies.
Quintus Cephas, and then couple guys like Tim Kennedy and like Robert Downey Jr. on their roster.
Iron Man.
That's a
hell of a wide receiver
look at
prospect right there.
Billionaire. So for me, it's like I don't think the Lions have what they need. They have multiple first-round picks. They're young offensively in some key positions here. Like I said, good news for DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift is locked in as a running back 1 if he stays healthy this year. I think TJ Hawkinson's locked in as a top 3 tight end. If you want like a bold prediction, the number 1 fantasy tight end next year is going to be Travis Kelce, then TJ Hawkinson.
I mean, how many times are they going to be down in games? They're going to be playing from behind a lot.
Right.
They're going to have to check the ball down in passing situations to DeAndre Swift. Now, do you believe that the Lions could potentially take a quarterback in this draft? Because they do pick 7th. So
I wouldn't. Again, I would, if I'm the GM of the Lions, and I just made this bold move for Jared Goff, is I want to lease, like, if you take a quarterback there, then you're just washing Goff as it is. And he has 2 more years guaranteed. You have multiple first-round picks later. Use that first to better the team now. See how Goff acclimates with the new head coach, with the new GM, and his new teammates, and see what he has. If it doesn't work out, you have 4 first-round picks over the next few years to get another quarterback.
And for the record, that's what I meant by kicking the tires. Like, I feel like the Lions should kick the tires on Jared Goff and not move on from
100%. Yeah, I'm using it. Who's the best offensive? This is a solid offensive line draft. They have some good players here. Who's the best offensive lineman I can grab here? Who's the best defensive tackle? Who's the best player on the board? If I'm the Lions, we're bad enough, besides quarterback and running back, which you wouldn't take there, or Kyle Pitts, is who's the best player on the board? That's what we're taking. We're rebuilding this team. I'm building a winner. So yeah, I honestly think it would be foolish to take a quarterback because I don't think there's going to be any quarterback there at 7 that's better than Goff.
But they acquired all that extra draft capital. They could easily move up, 3-4 spots. If they love Fields, which apparently the Jets aren't taking a quarterback. We'll see. Could be smoke screens, but
I wouldn't take a quarterback of the Jets either.
But you could. Okay, but But I mean, you could make that trade, and that with some of the extra capital they just acquired. And if Justin Fields is your guy, you get Justin Fields. If Zach Wilson's your guy, you get Zach Wilson. I just don't know. I just don't know at this point from what I've seen in the future classes if any of the quarterbacks coming up are anything special. Next year's class kind of looks like.
You never know.
Well, somebody. I was going to say somebody will emerge. Of course, they
always do. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule on this show. How about we take some listener questions here to end this off? Is this the Senior Bowl show? Jared, why don't you hit us with some listener questions out from the Twitterverse?
Yeah, so we got a couple of good ones coming in. We'll start with at Devin Maney on Twitter. Would you rather have Joe Burrow or the 101 in a Superflex?
I'm taking 101.
101, but it's so. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, obviously.
I love Joe Burrow. He's a fantastic quarterback that did it for one fantastic year at LSU. I think for sure he's going to be good. This is not a diss on Joe Burrow. Trevor Lawrence is different. He does everything well. He has been meant to play quarterback since he was a freshman in high school. You're talking about a guy who's only lost 2 games, and even at Andrew Luck, and from the Andrew Luck level, right? He's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. The difference between him and Andrew Luck is Andrew Luck played at Stanford, and Trevor Lawrence won national championships and played at Clemson and played the best of the best and still thrived. There's no, in my eyes, again, my opinion, there's no way to try and murky this water better. I see people that write for us on our site going, "Oh yeah, I would take Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence," or "It's close. No, it's close for me." No, it's
definitely Trevor Lawrence in that situation.
It's not close. It's not close. And Burrow, I'm not saying Burrow. Burrow
and Lawrence is close. Burrow and Lawrence is close.
It's close, but it's Lawrence.
I agree. For me. It's close and that it's Lawrence.
It doesn't. I think I would go T-Law too.
It doesn't look like it's that easy of a decision for you.
It's not that easy because I do really like Joe Burrow. I think he's got everything you're looking for in a quarterback. We've already seen him be fairly successful from a fantasy perspective.
Tougher division.
But
so for me, this is a multiple choice question. I like Joe Burrow an awful lot, but when you see the correct answer in the multiple choice, you just pick it, and it's Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I lean that way too. The good news is, though, I think there's times where you might be able to get Joe Burrow plus, and if I can get plus, I might do it.
Depends what the plus is. Next question.
It absolutely depends on the plus.
So this question comes from at Joe Girardi 99. If Jameis Winston lands a starting job somewhere, what is his trade value in Superflex leagues?
First round pick.
Late first.
Yeah. Any young quarterback who's a starter is worth a late first round pick at least in Superflex.
Yep, absolutely.
And his best case scenario is we're going to talk about next show in the Nerd Herd show. Because we're talking about players that are free agents or that could potentially be free agents, and where we look for them to land ideally. Jameis Winston's on that list, so we'll talk about him in the next show. We'll talk about him,
but yeah, I think that late first.
But a first round pick. I feel my theory in Superflex, if you want to trade for a quarterback that's under the age of 30, he's worth a first round pick.
Yep.
That's pretty universally correct, I think.
Hit us with the next one.
All right. This one comes from at Aaron Van D 93. In a Dynasty Superflex PPR, what should I be asking for in return for Lamar Jackson?
Oh, good answer.
Yeah. It's a hard one because obviously in my eyes, I think he's kind of getting devalued a bit. So it's a very, last year, before the season started, you're talking about 2 or 3 first round draft pick. You're shooting for the moon.
And then he comes out and he doesn't throw 36 touchdowns, and the Ravens are last in touchdown passes,
Absolutely.
last in pass attempts, and last in passing yards.
But he did improve quite a bit over the second half-ish of the season.
So it makes it for a very tricky evaluation.
It does.
And a great question.
And I'm not. We've talked about this a ton. I'm not a Lamar truther either. If anything, I've been on the opposite. I've been probably too far down. But if I have him, I'm in the middle of a startup doing a Superflex draft right now. There's only about 10 or 11 quarterbacks that I can say safely that I feel comfortable that they will be the starting quarterback of their team for the next 3 years. Like outside of that, it gets really murky really, really quick. So at that point, I have to get good value for him. So
And they're talking about extending him, right?
Right.
I mean, they've already come out and said that. So
They said they will extend him 100%.
Right.
I need 3 firsts to give up Lamar Jackson. And that's tough because I don't even love the guy, but I think at this point, a guy with that much potential, that much upside, I don't know that you can sell him for much less. If it's going to be 2 firsts and a second, okay, well then one of those firsts better be top 3, or something like that.
Where the Ravens are,
so you're getting replacement, or at least a shot at replacement.
the Ravens are dead last when it comes to passing, but they're number 1 when it comes to rushing, and Lamar Jackson's a big part of that. So from a fantasy aspect, he is a very good quality quarterback, but you got to look at the Mike Vick trajectory there, where he's going to give you those couple quarterback 1 years, but it's just slowly start to fall off there. Once he starts to get injured a little bit, I mean, you got to imagine it takes one bad leg injury, not bad, it just takes one leg injury for Lamar Jackson, and his fantasy value is pretty much out the window there. So for me, if I'm trading Lamar Jackson in a super flex, yes, I want 3 first-round picks. But for me, I'm not even going that route. I'm just going to target another quarterback I do feel more comfortable with.
That's what I would. You try to flip it into something long term, because I feel the same exact way. I feel like if he blows out his ACL and just never regains that extra gear.
Lamar or Burrow?
RG3.
Lamar or Burrow?
Today, Lamar. Tomorrow, Burrow.
All right, I'll ask you tomorrow.
I was gonna say you could if I was a person that had Lamar on my team, you would be able to entice me with Burrow plus something. How about that?
Like I would want Burrow, but you got to give me more. Even though I would just want Burrow.
Right.
But that's pretty close though.
Yes,
it's pretty. It's really close. Like they're within like 3. Like
I actually think
players.
I have Burrow ranked a spot higher.
But here's a better question. Go piggyback off the last question. Is right now somebody comes to you 1-1 super flex. I will give you 1-1 for Lamar Jackson right now.
I'll take 1-1.
I'll take 1-1
straight
also.
Up, right?
100%.
Yeah, I would take Trevor Lawrence straight up over Lamar Jackson right now. There's not many quarterbacks I would take. Like when we do once we implement our rookies in our Superflex rankings, Trevor Lawrence is going right to the top. He's going right to the top.
All right, real quick. Obviously, Mahomes is ahead. Josh Allen.
I'll take Josh Allen today.
Kyler Murray.
Because of his rushing ability.
Kyler Murray.
I would take Trevor Lawrence over Kyler Murray.
Ooh, okay. I would still take Kyler.
Here, I'll make it easy for you. The only quarterbacks I'm taking ahead of Trevor Lawrence in Dynasty Superflex right now are Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes, and Josh Allen. That's it.
Justin Herbert?
I would take Trevor Lawrence.
I'm taking Herbert.
It's close, but I like Herbert a ton. This is not a diss on Herbert. He's my 6th overall quarterback.
That's just so much risk. A guy that already showed he could be like a top 5 quarterback.
It is risk, but I think, listen, Herbert came out and showed us that he could be that top 6 guy. New coaching staff comes in here as well, so he's got new coaching change as well. It's just, I'm willing to just saddle it up with Trevor Lawrence. Right. It's just that simple. Like to me, he's just one of those players. There's not a doubt in my mind he's going to be fantastic. Here's a better way to look at it. How many of these quarterbacks have we seen that have come out into the league that every analyst that's ever analyzed quarterbacks at a high level and looks at a player and says either this is the best quarterback I've ever scouted, or this is a true generational quarterback, which we only hear that once every 10 years, and that quarterback has failed. Never. Those guys are always fantastic. Andrew Luck, John Elway, Peyton Manning. Those guys are always fantastic.
I'm racking my brain for one that was like even mentioned as a generational guy.
Everybody likes those guys, but I'm talking about that. Like everybody, it's consensus. Like this is generational talent, right?
Who was the guy that Peyton Manning was drafted? Ryan Leaf. Thank you. Thank you. Ryan Leaf.
But you know what I mean? Like those guys are always good. And I love Justin Herbert, but Trevor Lawrence is a little bit younger.
Like 2 years.
Okay, that's fine. And this is not a diss on anybody else. This is not a diss. It's like saying
I'm just going to take what I've already seen as a top 5 type of guy.
Things change in the NFL all the time. His coaching staff change. His offense is changing. He's losing Hunter Henry. Mike Williams might be gone. We don't even know what the offense is going to look like.
Sure.
He's getting Austin Eckler back. Are they going to
I just think it's an unnecessary
risk.
Game? It just seems like an unnecessary risk to me.
You're splitting hairs.
Sometimes
you
got to risk it for the biscuit, right?
Exactly.
Right?
So it's do you understand what I'm saying? Like it's like I understand your point, and it's not like I'm not even going to argue it because it's like I'm not going no, you got to take Trevor Lawrence. That's fine. If you took Russell Wilson ahead of him, I'm like, oh, okay. If you took Lamar Jackson ahead of him, I'm like, oh, okay. But for me personally,
I'm going 3rd for you.
I'm saddling up all on Trevor Lawrence. I'm taking him 4th. I take Deshaun Watson ahead of him.
Oh, you'll take Watson ahead of him? Okay.
Watson went out and led the league in NFL passing yards with a bunch of turd Fergusons around him with no running game whatsoever. What
about Dak? We haven't talked
Ooh,
about
that's close.
Yeah, you forgot about Dak, huh? Everyone forgot about
He
Dak.
breaks his ankle and just everybody forgets about him.
Everybody forgot about him.
And that's some good weapons in Dallas.
Real good
Buy
weapons.
low on predictionstrike.com.
Yeah.
No doubt. Man.
It's close.
We'll get back to you tomorrow.
Talk to me tomorrow. I'd probably take Trevor Lawrence, to be honest with
All
you.
right.
Just give me that youth. Like those kind of players, like it doesn't matter. It's cool that Dak has all those weapons. I feel like Trevor Lawrence can make everybody around him better.
Oh yeah, that's what good quarterbacks do.
We have time for another question or two?
Yeah, here's a good general dynasty question from at Dustin Hlavik. Sorry if I butchered your name there, Dustin.
I'm sure that's it.
No, I'm sure you nailed it.
What?
Lavish.
All right.
It's a lavishly lavish.
All right, here we go. What's your favorite site to run leagues on, and why?
Oh, you just want Rich and I to fight. That's all you want.
No, I think it's a good question.
I love both sites, to be fair. Like this is not a diss to any. It's just I prefer one over the other.
Yeah.
I use both. Let me put it that way.
Sort of.
And I'm gonna stay off to the side because I only actually use just the one.
Okay.
You haven't done a single league on Sleeper.
Not one single league. Yep.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You like Sleeper, Garrett?
Inform
All right,
me a bit. I guess.
here's the biggest. I think the biggest thing for Sleeper.
It's free.
That's a huge thing.
It's very pretty.
It is free. It is very pretty, and it's super easy to use and understand. I think that's the biggest thing. Is MFL is unnecessarily confusing. Like there's so many different things going on, especially on the website. You get in there.
So time out. What is MFL? We haven't said.
All right,
My
so
Fantasy League.
My Fantasy League.
Okay. Thank
Love
you.
those.
Those are the two main sites. There are some others. There's
Flea
Flea
Flickers.
Flickers.
Another solid. To be fair, Flea Flicker is a very solid
It's
site.
solid,
It's
yeah.
also free.
But I think for me, I do most of the stuff on the phone, and I think the app for Sleeper is just far and away the best. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. Jared tweeted it out today.
I saw it.
Yeah, you can turn
God.
off the mascots.
I loathe the mascots, by the way.
It seems to be people that recently got into Dynasty seem to like Sleeper more. People that are a little bit more OGs seem to like MFL a little bit more.
Oh, geez.
That's the thing. So I love my fantasy league because I love the customability of it. I've used it forever, so all my leagues are on there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I've had it forever. I don't like change, and they've been really good to us over the years. MyFantasyLeague.com, they've taken care of us above and beyond.
Oh yeah, they're great.
So I'm just loyal to those guys.
And mostly I'm in all MFL because I'm not really in any leagues other than leagues that Rich is in. So he starts them all. They're all in MFL. And
Fine, Rich will do another.
Yeah.
league.
And to be fair, Sleeper's free and MFL is free for me. So it's good. it's all free. Yeah. And my fantasy league called us and said, hey, Rich, we got to start charging. I'm like, oh, whoa. Sleeper doesn't charge me.
But I will say this. If you're a newer to Dynasty player, it would probably be easier to get set up on Sleeper. Wouldn't you probably agree?
I would say this. If you have a couple, you have 10, like there's 12 of you guys and you just want to run a league and there's nothing fancy about it all, right? Just PPR, super flex, non-super flex. Yeah. That's it. Sleeper's for you. And if you're in a very simple league with nothing crazy at all, Sleeper's for you. If anything beyond that, it's myfantasyleague.com. It's the most customizable league out there today. If you want to add elephants into your league and then Bambi can come into it too, and you have like whole Disney characters, you can add those to my fantasy league. You can literally add whoever you want into my fantasy league. You can create your own names in my fantasy league and put them in there, and you can draft them. They won't get any points, but you can draft them.
We should do a Disney draft.
It's very customizable.
I would do great at that.
And we know in
Me
Dynasty,
too.
people like to get crazy with it, right? So if
Sure.
you're playing like Devy leagues or campus to can't leagues or anything else, IDP, like just my fantasy leagues for you. And you're right. The one downfall to my fantasy league is it's very complicated when you want to go into things like that. And some of the simpler things you want to do, like just changing the waiver wire, could be difficult sometimes.
It's like, when do I pick in the future?
And
I don't know even where to find where my draft picks
Just
are.
to be clear, my fantasy league does cost money.
It does cost money.
It does cost money. Yep.
So they
It's
have
not a lot though, but
$60. It's
Yeah,
like
you
it's
spread
like
it out.
$5 a person if you're in a 12-man league. And they do have a secondary app for the MFL Platinum. It's not run by them, but I love the app. I do everything. That's the thing for me. I do everything on the app.
it works.
It works great for me. I love it. So I I love both of them. I really do. I think sleepers.
Ringing endorsement there, Garrett. It works.
I think sleeper's just so much easier.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think it's prettier. It's a good platform. I don't diss it. I use it. I run all my last nerd standing leagues on Sleeper. So I literally have 75 leagues on Sleeper.
Ew.
And I will add that Sleeper is constantly updating their website and their app with new features, new
100%.
things to the
Excited to see where
leagues,
they're going to be in a couple of years.
MFL's kind of just, it is what it is. And I mean, customization, like you can customize the shit out of it. Cause like I've been in some leagues where the guys know like HTML coding and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, you can do some crazy stuff.
You can do some crazy stuff with it, and you completely change how it looks. So,
Oh, if you could code, you can change.
I mean,
my
it's
fantasy
crazy.
league. And it's just like I said, if you want to get crazy like the Scott Fish Bowl and everything, like
for
it's just
sure.
it's just so much. It's nice that way. So.
Yep. So it kind of just depends on what you're needing.
All right, that's it. Those are no more questions. We went the full hour on that, so thanks for listening. We're going to dive into our next show, the Nerd Herd Show, where we're going to talk about some free agents or potential guys that are on the market and where do we look as their ideal landing spots for the 2021 season. Of course, you can find this show on YouTube. Make sure you check that out. Subscribe, please. Like it. Hit that notifications button. Because now we have the podcast on there. We have unique content on there as well. You guys talked about the Senior Bowl on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Marvin Eloquin's doing some great videos for us on YouTube. Jordan Rains, if you're into IDP, he does a lot of our IDP videos, which are great on there. The IDP Army, that's a fantastic video. I just had a video come out today about 3 of my favorite stashes for this month, at least early into it, where I talk some of those guys on there. So we have a lot of other, if you enjoy the podcast, we have a lot of other content from us coming out on the YouTube. So it's just another way to expand your Dynasty game. So check that out. And it helps the website as well. Of course, if you help the website also by going to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. That helps out as well. And join the Nerd Herd and use the Dynasty GM. We have some new tools coming here. We have a lot of new tools coming to the Dynasty GM this summer.
I can't wait till we can announce some of this stuff.
I know.
And just drop it, man.
Well, we had a hint.
I'm surprised Rich hasn't already.
So am I.
Well, the one thing we just saw, we put on Twitter, they're beta testing now. It's going to implement all the draft picks from everybody's league. So all those will be in the Dynasty GM. It's going to be really a one-stop shop, the GM. Just like we promised you when we launched it in August. Yeah. Anybody that's used it, that got the GM originally in August and is sitting here today in January, it literally does about 10 times many things as it did then. And like
we're still adding to it.
Yeah, and we made a promise to everybody when we got this. Like the more subscribers we get, the more we just give that money to our developers and make it better. Every day we get new people sign up for the GM, and every day we go to our developer, make it better. Make it better. Make it do this. And he's doing it.
We do slightly more than that. We usually give him a little bit more direction than make it better. But
we have ideas.
That's stupid. If we do better.
Shout out to Dynasty Stump.
Yeah, if we told him just get it, make
Shout
it better, he would do it and and make it better. But
I know, and a lot of our listeners have actually gone in and been beta testers for stuff like that too. Like we're listening to all the things you guys are saying. We're trying to make it the best tool we can for you guys.
Yeah, a lot of feedback has kind of molded the tool as well. But there's a couple things coming, and there's one big thing coming that's going to be fantastic, I think. It's simple but big. If you go back 2 years ago, you probably love it. But,
you couldn't help it.
Slowly but surely.
If you've been listening for the past 2 years, you might know what he's talking about.
So that's it. We'll be back next week talking more Dynasty Fantasy Football. We got about, 4 to 5 more weeks till we start to break into these rookies, right? We're around there, about 4 more weeks.
Right around there, yeah.
So we'll be back next week, Nerd Herd. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Adios.